So, I mean, initially just telling me a little bit about how you got started with Embody, what sparked the first session.
Yeah. So I can bring this story back to when I was 6 and used to dance freely in my living room until my dad got home. And there was something about feeling good in myself and feeling good in my body and then being seen that I just would always like freeze in myself. And I've kind of carried that. So I would have been like the wallflower at a party or a club, kind of watching everyone enjoying themselves and then thinking, oh, I don't know, like if I get out there, what's gonna happen? I just started to feel more comfortable and sort of like tiptoe into that of, or if I was drunk enough. If I was drunk enough, I'd be able to dance on the tables or that kind of thing. And when I moved to Wales and I started doing more personal development work and growth, and I kept being drawn to music, and that part of that like 6-year-old in me that wanted to dance freely and just express myself, and started inviting other women to do that. And around the same time, the woman who created Embody was inviting other women to bring that to their communities. And so it just spoke to me because it's something that's always been in me, is the freedom to move and the freedom to dance and this super strong connection to music and kind of feeling the universe or feeling the whole world through the music.
Well, it's almost like, if you go back to the womb, isn't it? The heartbeat in the womb, and it almost takes you back to that. Some of that, that music with a proper beat is just like, it's so, it just takes you back to that feeling of being kind of totally connected.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's this, and I love a bit of bass. And there's something in that is very familiar. That it reminds me of who I am, and it helps me drop into that feeling of connection to something bigger than I. And where I do meditate and I've tried meditation, but it wasn't until sort of being able to meditate through movement that something became still in my mind, because my body was meditating for me, if that makes any sense.
So just so for people who have never been to an Embody experience, what would they expect, and how could you kind of ease any fears about what might come up?
Sure. I think to answer that, one thing I want to say is I recognize that sometimes the invitation to connect back to our bodies can be scary in and of itself. So forget movement and dance and music, but just connecting to our bodies for a whole variety of reasons. And that's something that's been a lived experience of mine for years, fighting my body, wanting to change my body, looking in the mirror, hating my body. And so if you had met me then and asked me to come to an Embody class, I would probably, what? You want me to feel this thing that I try so hard to get away from, essentially. And so I recognize that experience, that women can have a range of experience around their body. And so one of the things that I love about this class and this experience of Embody is the recognition that could be the case, and so much love around that. And so for women who are recognizing, like, I want to connect back to my body, but I just don't know how. And maybe, they might go to yoga, or they might go for a run, or do other things where they're in their body moving, but there's still sometimes a feeling of separation. This has given me a way to actually love my body for what it is and value it's almost like, it's like recognizing that my body is a thing of its own, and I can love it in the same way that I would love a child or my favorite color paint on the wall or something like that. And one of the ways that we do that, and we help facilitate that for women, is one, slowing down. And so really giving time just to breathe and just to return back to the breath and let that be enough. To recognize that when you're breathing, there's a natural expansion and contraction that happens. There's a natural movement that's happening anyway. And so for someone just to breathe and be in their body, it's enough. It's like you're doing it, you're doing the thing. And we do that every day, but we're not always cognizant of it or aware of it. So it's almost like giving the space for someone to be aware of, oh yeah, I'm already doing the thing. I'm already in my body. I'm already winning.
Yeah.
And taking the pressure off of having to perform in their body.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people might think, oh, but I can't dance, or, I'm not good at dancing, dancing's never been my thing, so this is not for me. So how would you kind of, for people like that, do you think that's more because, dancing is quite a sensual thing as well, isn't it? So connecting back to that idea of being a sensual human being.
Yeah.
I think a lot of women, through a variety of different experiences as children, have kind of almost cut off from that sensuality.
Yeah.
So just opening themselves up to that, what would you say?
Yeah, I can 100% relate to being cut off from my sensuality, and the reasons don't matter at this point, but just that there was so much fear and shame around my sensuality, and so this has given me a way to repair that. For me, my journey with it was recognizing that my senses, if I just break down the word, I had to do it quite cognitively at first. If I break down the word senses, it's like taste, sound, smell, sight. There's nothing wrong with that. This is how we naturally connect to the world around us, and this is the gift, one of the gifts of our body, is that it has a way to actually notice and be aware of what's
in
going
constant state of communication with the outside world, isn't it?
Completely.
So,
and we don't need language. We don't need English or whatever language to it. Our body's language is our senses, is our sensuality.
It's a global language, dance, isn't it? Everybody taps into dance in order to express themselves and connect with each other and to connect with the planet and the earth, isn't it? It's very grounding. So for people who aren't grounded, this is a really good way to get grounded and then tune in. Yeah,
absolutely. So so in a class, we start off the class breathing, music is playing, and then there's an invitation to start to let your body really sense what's going on. And so an invitation to kind of hear the music through color, or see what taste might be arriving in your body. Maybe not even in your mouth, but you can sort of start to taste something through the energy that's moving around through the movement. And so it starts to, I can feel myself starting to kind of glide and slide just thinking about it. It gives permission for this more fluid, water-like movement to return, or it's not return, it's already there, but to really start to take over as opposed to a very linear structure.
Well, it's that feminine side, isn't it? Opening yourself up to the feminine divine, and connecting with that automatically makes you kind of soften.
Exactly.
Because we are in a very masculine centered universe right now, aren't we? The masculine energy, the way the world works is very masculine. So bringing that feminine in, day to day, everything sort of, you do the same thing day in, day out, but just being in the moment and moving in the moment is opening yourself up to a feminine kind of spontaneous energy.
Totally. And what I've started to notice through the practice of this is that If I go like the before and the after, right? The before of me was completely in the masculine energy of consistently doing, going focused on my to-do list for the day and just going at it like a bull. Yeah. And having zero awareness of where my limit was around that. And so for the most part, I was operating above my limit, which was living in a place of stress. And my ways to meet that stress were not good for me. So whether it was alcohol or food or, just that you look for all this other stimulation in your life to kind of calm down, when actually what you need is like the deprivation to come back home and whatnot. And what I notice now is that I will be able to clock when I'm getting to my limit, and I can start to feel this, like I'm doing too many emails, or I'm too stressed out about getting something up on a website or whatever the thing is. I can start to feel everything in my body do this, right? Like the shoulders come, everything contract in me. And where in the past I would have just been like, all right, push on, get through this, 10 more minutes, What I'm realizing now is the thing that I'm needing the most is the sensual. Is something to invite me back into my heart, back into my body, to slow it down. And so maybe I'll put in some music or light a candle, or just even like touch, like feel something soft. Okay, now I can breathe again. And my awareness and my perspective and the priority of what's important totally shifts. It's like the to-do list doesn't matter, because
it brings you back to the present moment.
Yeah.
So I think that these days there's so many women, like we're talking mainly to women here, I guess, who are living in a low-level state of anxiety. So how can this practice help people like that?
I'm laughing because it's one of those things, when you know it in you, and it's like waiting for the words to connect to the thing. But maybe that's actually a place to start with it. So what I've noticed about anxiety is that it lives in my head, and there's like all this noise and all this like quick, fast energy up in my head.
So fast.
That it's like, just, and then if I give it space, it's like, actually it's in my body too. It's just that I'm not walking around shaking like this, but that's actually what it is. And so to come out of that is there, I guess it's a balance of giving space for the release of it, as well as nourishing you with maybe what you haven't had that you've needed to help your nervous system relax a little bit, so that there's a feeling of safety, there's a feeling of groundedness, there's a feeling of trust that arrives. And so without getting into all the nuances of the nervous system and all of that, but what we always say at Embody is like, you follow what feels good in your body. So this isn't me or facilitator.
You're not performing. It's not a dance. It's not a dance. I think people really need to know this is not about dancing. It's about tuning into the energetic body.
Totally. So there's no rules to follow. There's no guidelines. There's no poses to take. There's no step left or step right. It's about really learning how to track your own inner guidance to say, what would feel good in this moment. So if in this moment it's going to feel good to lift my left shoulder and have my arm come out like this, like I'm just going to trust that that's what I need right now. And there's something about creating that trust within yourself that starts to chip away at the anxiety that's coming from external pressures, because the more you can build in you that like, oh look, like that didn't make sense to me, right? It didn't make sense, but I did it anyway and it felt freaking good. And so I'm going to do that again next time. You start to claim back like it's like bringing back home all the pieces of you that you've somehow given away. And I've noticed that that's where anxiety kind of seeps in, is when you're so focused out there and you've kind of put everything, you've given away your power, that's where the monkey mind starts to panic of, wait, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So the more you start to, it's a process of, okay, let me breathe. Let me feel what's going on. Actually, I'm tired of sitting in this position because my hip is starting to hurt. So while a part of me might say, no, stay still, look good on camera, or whatever the story is around why you can't actually change. It's like, no, I'm going to move that leg out and I'm going to feel the breath, the exhale that comes with that. And it's slowing everything down. And now that tension that I've been holding in my body slowly starts to move its way out just by trusting the sensations.
And I really think that we are all in this idea, or like I personally, trying to control external things the whole time in an attempt to control the internal. But this kind of process of embody, of letting go, if you can take that, it's like the practice of yoga on the mat isn't about yoga on the mat, it's about relating what you're learning on the mat and taking it off the mat and putting it into practice. So I guess with embody as well, it's that idea of trusting your intuition to move and guide you, trusting everything inside you to be absolutely just as it is, and not trying, and knowing that we don't really have any control over anything outside of ourselves. The only thing we have control of is how we communicate with ourselves, and having that communication and being able to take that letting go into the outside world.
Completely. Yeah. It's like, you can relate it to yoga, like what happens on the mat is a reflection of off the mat and vice versa, or think of it as like a lab, an experimentation to say, or a playground. I think playground is actually how this whole started. It was, before it was called Embody, it was called the pleasure playground. And so it was, how can I play with this idea of, it's like, how can I play with music, essentially? It's like giving, the music becomes this thing to dance with and to play with and to communicate with. And so it's like, I'm going to try on this flavor of sound, this flavor of energy, and see how my body might want to move, because that same flavor of energy is outside the dance floor. And so you start to notice, well, how do I relate to this flavor when it's in my life? But we're going to try it out here. And so as we move through a journey, essentially, the music takes us on a journey, and part of that journey is starting to play with more higher energy, chaotic, maybe grittier, maybe growlier energy that sometimes can bring up emotions of anger or rage or whatever. And this happens to be my favorite part of class. Because it's starting to see, okay, when shit starts to hit the fan out there and life gets hectic and crazy and nothing makes sense and you're trying to grab your arm, what's your response, right? Is your response, stop, or grab your arms around it and try to control it, or, what's actually happening in your response out there? And what if you could find freedom in the chaos here in the class? How could you then start to find freedom in the chaos of your life to stay in your power, stay in your joy, stay connected to yourself, and not have to go into overwhelm, that you could find the twinkle in your eye around, all right, here we go, it's gonna get crazy.
So I also think I'm really kind of embracing that aspect of non-duality, just being connected to everything. And then when things come up for you, like maybe you don't like the music or something, just being curious, as opposed to I don't like, or this is not for me. and just being curious as to what's going on for you, isn't it? So I just think that's a really important thing to be able to do at the moment, because also that's, you can take off the mat or take off the dance floor and into like non-duality. We are all connected, and also when something comes up, when you feel triggered, you know, what is going on for you? Bring it back to you. Don't always, you know, make some egotistical thing in your head about it, like, I don't like, they're not nice, some judgment, and try and come out of judgment altogether. It's like, you know, ultimately a really beautiful place to be, isn't it? You know, and it's really hard. Like, literally we walk around like, you know, in an egotistical state of mind, which we mainly are a lot of the time. We walk around, I don't like that, I like that, I love that. Oh, that's amazing, don't like that, you know. And can we just be like much more on a level of curiously interested in everything without the ups and downs, the highs and lows?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I also have a really clear taste in music, and so there's some music that I can be like, ooh, I don't like that, right? And so I'll say to people, like, look, it's fine if you don't like the music, like, it's really fine, because it's, work with that. Like you're saying, get curious. What is actually going on for me that tells me I don't like this, right? And so even if it's as simple as like, then I would say, while you're here, lean into the right? Push away from it and really let yourself be able to express the dislike of something.
And know that it will always move on to another tune, because that is life, isn't it? Like, when the shit hits the fan, it will always be that you will come out the other side. So it's kind of, it is really just taking the practice, what you're learning on the dance floor, off into life.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, because I think there's like two pieces to what you're saying. Like, one, it's okay not to like it, because you can just, you get curious about that and lean into that and be able to express your no around something, which a lot of times as women, we are taught that it's not okay to say no. And so we become the people pleasers, we become the yes people. And so it's almost, we're giving you things to bounce, to practice saying, no, this is not for me, or I'm tired of this, or can she change the music yet? Or when will this be? Like, to feel into all of that around something, because we're not given space to do that, so that you can bring that into a relationship or whatever. And then there's also, like you were saying, I guess it's almost transcending beyond that, because the I don't like is coming from here. It's a judgment call, it's coming from here. But if you're dropping down into your body, it's not so much that your body doesn't like it, it's just that maybe your body wants to move away from something, right? Or maybe your body wants to have distance from something, and so that's a very natural animal instinct that is not a right or wrong. It's just, that's what it is. Like, right? I want to go like this. All right, great, we'll go like that. It's not that you don't like something. It's just that you want your arm over there.
So, you know, your reason for doing it on the new moon, and how you've chosen this time.
So I like shadow work. I love going into the grittiness of myself, and like I think it is that kind of that ick feeling in me that for so long I didn't let myself feel. And so as I've started to learn how to feel, the place that ironically feels most comfortable for me is the or whatever. And so what I've found in starting to, so I guess it's connecting to my body and letting myself feel, part of it was coming off the pill and actually being able to let my emotions run through the cycle. So I remember hearing people would say, you know, they have this cycle, I don't know, I'm flat all month. Well, yeah, you are flat all month if you're taking the pill. But yeah, so coming off the pillow, being able to feel and feeling a lot of frustration, irritation, feeling, I guess, different levels of shame that maybe in the past were just sort of numbed out. And what I've found is that each month as I was coming up to the new moon cycle of my own bleed, it was this cathartic process of like just like cleansing. It was like, okay, we're gonna scrape out some more gunk. We're gonna scrape out some more gunk. And so what I love about that new moon period is that you are in the darkness, and you start to learn to navigate through those emotions that we try to, keep tidy and parked. And I also find that in my own cycle, it's when I'm the most connected to my intuition, right? Because there is no light to shine on to show me the way. So I have to go in to myself. And so because Embody is all about going in and connecting to your intuition and your instincts, it feels like doing it with the new moon cheering us on and like, intentionally not having visible light and that energy of going into the darkness. It feels like it is like an extra gift for women to make it okay to
well, it's an opportunity. I think I read something from Eckhart Tolle the other day about for women, that time just before they bleed is like when they are most in contact with their pain body. Their pain body is something, it's a real thing we carry with us, and maybe we're not that aware of, but as we start to become more aware of it, that is when it shows up. That's why like women always have a little freak out, or people go, a bit mad around the when they're bleeding and everything. But that is when you're in contact with your pain body. That is probably when you're most real. You're most honest about what's going on for you, and you go, no, just because that is what you actually feel. But most of the time you're too busy pretending that you're a nice person that you don't give the honest answers.
Oh my god, the thing that so it's like the whole keep calm, carry on thing. It's like no, we're not keeping calm anymore, and we're not carrying on when we don't want to, because all that's doing is creating this vanilla version of humans and women, and a pretense and this stiffness in our bodies because we're holding it all in, and that's when you get to your breaking point. And it's like no, we are meant to feel, we are meant to emote, our emotions guide us to our truth of what is it we actually feel. And
without the pain body, you can't tap into how to heal. I mean, every pain body, we all have one, don't we? We all have one from childhood. You can sail through your childhood, but there will be something in there which has created a layer, and then another, and we all have different layers. Some have, a slightly less complicated pain body, but we all have one. And unless we learn to tune in, we can't really heal, can we? Because what are we healing? We don't really know. So it is that ability to, instead of just letting it flare up, which is what we do, if we can take it back and actually consciously try and dissolve it. Do you think?
I think it's...
I mean, just flaring up every month, that's not a solution, is it?
No, I think it's meeting it. And having space and learning how to work with it, and recognizing how this can be part of your power as a woman. So a lot of times when we're talking about Embody, we've kind of distilled it to 3 words: so pleasure, power, and play. And the power piece of it, sometimes, with all pieces of it, sometimes people kind of give you like, what? Pleasure, power? And especially now, I think the version of power that we have been conditioned to accept as a hierarchical power over, a control over, or authority figure. And so this is saying, this is kind of, I guess, redefining or demystifying that, or what I was saying. There's another version of power that's actually from leaning into the hard places, leaning into the pain body, leaning into your anger, your grief,
trauma, whatever it is.
Exactly. And learning how to be with those emotions. For whatever reason, my body has been grieving. I couldn't tell you what, but just wails of grief. And the thing is, if I had never let myself go there to that grief, then all of that pain is bottled up in me, which is gonna ooze out in my relationships, in everything.
Well,
with
also as a form of disease in the body, isn't it? That is what ultimately will create dis-ease in the body.
Yeah.
Is that holding on to toxic emotions.
Yeah. And so by learning how to hold space in yourself for those more challenging emotions, you get to alchemize. You become your own healer. You alchemize that into a strength and a power that it's like, oh, like they know themselves. They're serious about what they just said. This isn't coming from a place of like, I'm trying to fight you or I'm trying to like manipulate the situation. This is just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. But to get there, you have to go through the wild, crazy, emotional landscape. So Embody takes you on a journey to come back into your body through your sensuality, to allow your senses to start to guide you. It then starts to invite you to feel, right now that we're home in our bodies, what's actually going on beneath the surface, beneath the senses, what emotions are getting stirred up. And so there's space to emote and get to know the range of emotions in you. And we come out the other side of that to notice, okay, what lightness might be there now? Like it's almost like we've gone through the storm, the other side of the storm. The sky is clear, the clouds are gone. And, ooh, what's it like to like relax into that a little bit, right? And so we start to we get to know like the innocence that we've had as children, of the wide-eyed wonder and awe at the world, and also where you don't care what anybody thinks of you.
Yeah.
Right? Like the way you see the world is the way you see the world, and it is your reality. And so it's kind of this invitation to come back to that place inside that doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to have a purple elephant, and you're convinced that elephants are purple, and so you go and like you draw the purple elephant. And again, if you take that as a metaphor for life, like all those passions and desires and all of that creativity that you have inside of you that we can keep small because of what are they going to think, and is this allowed?
Yeah.
It's like, no, feel into the possibility that you can be the creator of your own life.
Yeah.
And so there's space to dance and to feel in your body of like, what's it like to, be the ballerina or do the cartwheel, or just find that freedom in your body where nothing's going to stop you. And whether you want to think of it as like the antidote to shame or
guilt. Guilt's another one which plays big in so many women's minds, doesn't it? It's just this monster.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I'm not doing this right.
Yeah. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, I just hear it and see it everywhere.
So and totally still live in that story. We all do to different extents, and I think it's got deep, ugly roots, that shame. And so this is a space to free yourself from that, and free yourself from a very somatic level of feeling in this moment. On that day when I went to that class, I was shame free. And so, and it keeps dropping pennies in that bucket so that you are then bringing that back into your life. And it's fun. This is like a whole another way of getting to just release and to heal and to shake off all that stuff in community with others too. So it's not this isolating thing that
it's not in your living room on your own.
No. And you're not in your head about it.
Yeah, and it's not at a party, at a party where everybody's wasted as well. I think that the idea of doing it, sober is just so much more. There's so much more potential for transformation, isn't there? Because you're conscious, conscious and present, as opposed to at a party where you've had too much to drink, and you'll dance and you have a great time, but the next day you'll feel shit.
And as someone who numbed for years, and I numbed through food and had zero access to my emotions and zero awareness of what was going on in my body, like, to that person who has that awareness, I numb, I actually don't want to feel, because it feel, it's like too much. Like, I think I also can say, like, you are probably one of the deepest feelers, because, and so it's like, what's on the other side of all of that is so much beauty, and there's so much heart, that it's almost like it's like those of us who like come to this life with the gift of a huge big heart and a body that can feel and all of that, and then we learn to keep that closed. It's like the gift and the medicine of opening that back up is what the world needs right now. And so, like, it's okay if the pattern is numbing, like, I totally get it, and this will help to kind of just soften that a little bit to open it back up.
I mean, there's a whole field of addiction out there, and the truth that people who become addicts are often the most spiritual people. Not we're all spiritual beings, but they're feeling too much and they can't take it, and it's just like, how can you embrace that amazing, that ability to feel so strongly without trying to dumb it down because it feels too much.
You can, and make it safe, make it fun. It's like, I can do this. I can do it. It's doable.
Amazing. Well,
so
cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for hosting it, supporting it.